Good evening, America. It is 7 p.m., Monday, June 22nd. And this is Q News Tonight, the world's first live LGBTQ daily evening news. It is time to queer up the news. Before we jump into the show, we want to report that we have Alexis Mateo, a contestant on the current RuPaul's Drag Race Season 5, tomorrow night on the show. She has an interesting post, and there's been interesting conversation about bullying in RuPaul's Drag Race and among fans of the show. And we have Alexis going to do a live interview from Las Vegas tomorrow evening in Q News about gay bullying on the gay community. We encourage you to tune in. In breaking news tonight, we have an exciting announcement about an amazing new digital television show that is coming for the LGBT community called Gay Townhall, advertising you participate in the LGBTQ debate. The show will focus on the big topics of the day that are of interest to the LGBTQ community. More than a dozen hosts, including celebrities, famous influencers, drag queens, writers, authors, college professor who identifies as a communist, a famous White House visiting gay Trumpster, artists, all segments representing the L, the G, the B, the T, and the Q of our community, a famous porn star, a famous underwear model, a Miccosukee Native American, and more. The show will premiere at 8 p.m. on Thursday, July 2nd, and it's alive. Best of all, America, world, you get to participate. The chat is moderated, and interesting thread posts are moved right into the screen for host and guests to discuss. Best of all, America, you are allowed to log in and be on camera with the host and participate in the debate and discussion. Nothing like this has ever existed in the LGBT community before, and it is very exciting. Over the next 2 weeks, all of these hosts will be introduced to you. And tonight, we introduce you to our next host of Gay Townhall. That is Amber Taylor. Amber is a mom, a realtor, a vocalist singer, and a beautiful lesbian. In my day, we called her a lipstick lesbian. Welcome, Amber, to Q News Tonight. Did I get lipstick lesbian right, or is that too old-fashioned?
I think in boomer speak, lipstick lesbian is perfect, Al, but I think we're just regular old lesbians. I don't really hear a lot of people say lipstick lesbian these days, but maybe they're just saying it behind my back.
All right. Well, I hear the boomer joke, of course. Amber, tell us a little bit about you. You live here in Fort Lauderdale in Wilton Manors. You work here, yeah?
Correct.
Beautiful.
I'm raising 2 children here in Fort Lauderdale. I'm an entrepreneur. My business is located right off Wilton Drive at 2422 Wilton Drive next to Sidelines Bar. I'm a real estate agent for the last 10 years here in Wilton Manors. I adore our community.
Yeah.
I love our community. I really enjoy importing all the wonderful gay people that I meet from across the nation that maybe can't be gay where they are from openly and can walk the streets hand in hand with their partner here in Wilton Manor.
As you know, Amber's just told you she works on the gayest street in the gayest place on planet Earth, here in Wilton Manors and Wilton Drive. Amber, I was excited to hear your addition as a host of this new concept, Gay Town Hall, because I understand that you have a very strong girl's voice, which in a LGBT community that is predominantly dominated by gay boys and gay men, you're going to have a bit of a different perspective.
Sure, and not that I mind men. I absolutely love gay men. I'm not an anti-men lesbian, but I do feel like the lesbian voices in our community should be brought to the forefront, and often they're drowned out by the loud noise of all the boys.
Yes, all of the boys. And in fact, I was reading some of the transcript summaries of your first participation in interviewing for the show. And one of the comments that you said is that you were a gay man in a woman's body, and you were going to have the ability to deal with the boys. Is that true?
That is absolutely true. And what I say is, I am a little bit of a gay man trapped inside of a woman's body. I love the ladies so much. Or maybe I'm a straight man inside.
I
Either
love
way,
that. I
it's a
love that.
man. I have
Yeah.
some gender queerness about me that's not apparent on the outside,
Yes,
yet to
absolutely.
be
That's
revealed.
yeah, yet to be revealed. Tell us a little bit about what you think about this new concept of having a gay town hall that really talks about all of the big issues that really affect all of the corners of our very diverse LGBTQ community.
Being that it's the first of its kind, I think it's absolutely necessary, and I almost ask why we don't have something like this already. We need to put our voices out there so we're heard, so at least people know what it is we want, and our voices are clear as day.
Yeah. Do you
What
worry
are
that
we asking for?
yeah, do you worry that the show may find out that we don't know what we want?
I think that that can happen if you don't have a clear agenda. Look, let's get someone, let's get a gay attorney to write some things that we want passed into legislation. Let's have it ready to go. If they ask, hand them some paperwork.
Yeah. And do you think your point of view of what you represent from your portion of the community, do you expect that there's going to be conflict with other different voices in the community, or do you think we're going to be able to find common ground, or not?
I don't mesh well with everyone, but I definitely try to be diplomatic where I can. But where I feel passionately, I'm going to speak out whether someone agrees with me or not.
Absolutely. Well,
You'll
what
know
is,
my point of view.
yeah, and you're going to have the opportunity to express your point of view. Taylor, if you were going to tell America the one thing that you're hoping to accomplish as a new host for Gay Town Hall, what would it be?
To make sure that lesbians feel they are represented in our community, that they have a voice and what they want is heard.
Absolutely. Well, great.
That's what's really important to me. And also parent representation. I'm a gay parent. There's not a lot of us, but
And
we
your,
do
your children are
exist.
your biological children or adopted?
They are my biological children, 16 months apart. I have a boy and girl. I'm truly blessed for that. But sometimes I feel like I'm on an island as a gay mother.
Oh, interesting. Well, I can't
So I
wait
would like to connect with other gay parents. I think it's very important.
wait to hear this. To have 12 different kinds of people like Amber, Taylor, representing our community is going to be fascinating to watch. You combine that with some of the most interesting topics facing our community, and we really have something new. We remind you, America, Gay Town Hall, it is a brand new concept, and you can come in and participate in the argument, debate, and discussion. It premieres next Thursday night, July 2nd at 8 p.m. and you're going to have amazing hosts, just like who you've met tonight in our first announcement of the show, host Amber Taylor. Amber, thanks for being with us tonight at Q News Tonight.
Thank you for this opportunity. Have a great night.
All right, and we're looking forward to it. So again, America, good evening. It is 7 p.m. It is Monday, June 22nd, and it's time to queer up the news. We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your stories we are going to tell this evening on Q News Tonight. Tonight on the world's first live daily queer evening news show.
Tonight's news about the gay community and the news from an LGBTQ perspective. Are our gay stories important to you? In headlines, politics, entertainment, gay culture, travel, religion, and more. Reported by respected anchors.
Out of the closet and into the headlines on Q News Tonight. Well, thank you for joining Q News Tonight. We are live. This is a live show, so anything can happen. Tonight we bring you the news of and a perspective from the LGBTQ community. I'm your anchor, Al Ferguson, and this is my co-guest anchor, David Hopkins, and my co-guest anchor, Chris Swarner, who is our straight representative tonight on Q News. Let's queer up the news. We begin tonight by reporting and queering up Vote 2020. K-pop fans and jokes about testing coverage in the Trump Tulsa rally. As part of a coordinated effort, K-pop fans and teenage TikTok users scooped up tickets left and right to President Trump's Saturday rally in Tulsa, leaving what appeared to be thousands of empty seats in the process and infuriating the president and his staff. During the rally, the president, quote, unquote, joked about wanting to slow down testing so that the news looked better. With a report out today that apparently the Senate has found $14 billion of funds not yet spent on COVID-19 crisis, it becomes apparent the president wasn't joking at all.
Yeah, this whole situation is funny to me. Shout out to the Zoomers who bought up all the tickets. That being said, if there were people outside who didn't have tickets, they would have brought them in. Sorry, Mr. Trump, nobody wanted to see you.
Yeah, this is just disheartening from the president, though. It's funny that the K-pop people managed to fool the president of the United States, but the fact that we have billions that have been allocated for COVID and it's just going nowhere because of this man's ego, people have died this year because of this.
The statistical facts are between 6,500 and 7,000 people attended the rally in the 19,000-seat arena. I posted on my own social media, that would have been fine, except the president and the Trump organization said 1 million people had applied for tickets, that it was full of 19,000. They were doing a second rally outside, so many people were coming, and so as a result, 6,500, which would have been successful, seems like a failure.
Next, we queer up religion. A pastor claims that bisexuals are gutless, like white people pretending to be black or brown. Watch this.
Internally divided. Then what you do is you'll choose a side, and then there's the ones that want to be bisexual. You know, it's like they're the ones that it's like the whites that pretend to be black or brown. And they're radical. You talk about radicals, you see them on TV. The whites that are supporting, say, in New Zealand, Māori issues, they're nuts.
A millionaire pastor from New Zealand, Murray Watkinson, delivered a deeply biphobic rant in a sermon earlier this month in which he essentially compared bisexuality to blackface. During the sermon at the Celebration Church in Christchurch, he touched upon the death of George Floyd in the United States, which sparked nationwide protests. The rant went many different horrible directions that touched on obvious and deep homophobia, as well as racist thoughts in a rapid back and forth. Watkinson has been widely condemned for the speech.
I gotta say, I was talking to a friend of mine today who's both queer as well as black, and he did not even know where to begin with this. This is offensive on every level, and I'm glad he's been condemned for it.
The homophobia that is reflected in the most extreme corners of our religious communities really provides distinction of what we're fighting against, who we shouldn't allow to represent us in terms of elected officials, our courts, our justices, etc. Actually, I'm kind of glad to hear this kind of speech. It's in New Zealand, but worldwide, and especially here in the United States, it allows us to focus on who our real enemies are.
This is terrible. A lot of religions use fear to control people, and if there's an enemy out there that can be equated with evil, then they have more power over what they consider good, and that's just an example of this.
We continue by queering up gay culture tonight by reporting LGBTQ bathhouse Club Fort Lauderdale reopens this last weekend in skyrocketing South Florida pandemic. One of America's largest and South Florida's legendary Club Fort Lauderdale is a 24-hour-a-day gym and club for the LGBTQ community. A business that offers day and longer memberships, has lockers, private rooms, sauna, gym, pool, and more. It is considered the top of its type in the gay bathhouse industry. But when they quietly reopened this last weekend, many medical professionals questioned if the timing was right. Florida is approaching one of the largest coronavirus outbreaks in America, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, in a Friday South Florida press conference, focused on a change that the average age of Broward County residents here in Fort Lauderdale who recently tested positive for COVID-19 is now 32 years old. He suggested people unlikely in this age group to wind up on ventilators in intensive care units. Florida has nearly doubled the state's total number of COVID-19 cases in recent weeks and has had 5 straight days of record new infection case numbers. Even the governor has now contradicted President Trump that the increase in testing is accounting for the spike in the outbreak case numbers. Club Fort Lauderdale represents a complex debate on how to reopen the business economy while providing for public health safety, including the gay community. Still, the unprecedented surge in cases prompted a call for doubling down on expanding the business openings, like Club Fort Lauderdale, amid warnings to younger people to practice social distancing and wearing facial coverings. If closer than 6 feet to someone else, in social distancing. At the same time, according to DeSantis, the state will start strict enforcement of capacity rules in restaurants and other businesses. DeSantis said Friday, quote, "When those very reasonable guidelines are disobeyed, well, it ends up defeating some of the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish." Overall, South Florida has been home to 29% of Florida's population and now accounts for 49.5% of all of the COVID-19 cases. In the latest results, 14.3% of the people swab tested positive. That's based on 28,404 tests since the previous day. It is a clear sign the virus is more widespread. For comparison, look back 4 weeks ago when just 3.2% of the test results showed infections on May 23rd. That was based on the results of 20,940 tests that day. Percentage of infection has increased nearly 5-fold in the last month. Club Fort Lauderdale reopenings bring to light how public health and Governor DeSantis will accomplish his growing concern in terms of monitoring and enforcement. It also challenges the notion of whether the gay community will follow medical recommendations and guidelines. Club Fort Lauderdale has a strict waiver and notices of risk for membership and participation of their facilities.
I have mixed feelings about this. There are many people who will be irresponsible in the bathhouses, just like there are always many people who are irresponsible in the bathhouses. That does give you a venue, though, for getting off. They have the glory holes, which we've reported in New York has said are safer for COVID. But also sometimes, just being in the room with somebody and masturbating with the visual stimulus can be enough. It's better than watching porn. So this could go either way.
Yeah, I understand the need for human contact, but I've mentioned before I'm diabetic, and this scares me when people just disregard basic social rules. It's one thing to do it safely, but even our Republican governor, who is often divorced from reality, is noting that people are breaking very broad basic guidelines. And if they continue to do that, we're never going to see an end to this pandemic.
Well, this facility in Fort Lauderdale is a gold standard in the United States for this industry segment. However, you have to look at the facts, the medical facts. We, every Thursday night, have Dr. Howard Grossman on our show answering Q&A on coronavirus. Our numbers are 5 times what they were just 30 days ago in terms of actual percentage of testing. This quiet opening of Club Fort Lauderdale certainly probably is going to have a substantial effect in terms of continued infection spread.
Next week, Queer Up the USA. South Florida local business owner spits in bartender's face in a gay bar. Watch this.
At the pub in Wilton Manors, signs clearly showing masks must be worn when not seated and social distancing must be adhered to. However, Friday, bartender Shane Cullinan says a customer spit in his face because he told him to wear a mask.
We run a business where we're very strong on protecting our customers and our associates, and we have very strict rules.
Cullinan posted the whole ordeal on Facebook. He says he was just trying to keep everyone safe at the pub with COVID-19 going around. He posts, "I had one of my best friends pass from this with no pre-existing conditions. That friend, BSO Deputy Shannon Bennett, who contracted COVID-19 and died back in April."
Shane Cullinan, a bartender who works in the city of Wilton Manors, Florida, said that local business owner Gary Bouvier spit in his face when Cullinan asked him to wear a face mask in the pub, the local gay bar where Cullinan works. After returning from outside with a mask on, he allegedly pulled it down and spat in Cullinan's face. Bouvier is the owner of the local restaurant Wilton Wings and has since issued an apology and blamed alcohol on the incident.
How is he not in jail? Like, to me, especially during a pandemic, this is simple assault. If you are so stupid that you can't handle your alcohol to the point of assaulting someone else, then maybe a couple weeks in jail will solve the problem for you.
For the LGBT community, this is very likely going to make national news. We must have civility in a time of crisis and pandemic. This is the ultimate expression of lack of civility.
Gary Bouvier, I have been to Wilton Wings many times, but won't we now? But another issue with his apology is he flat out says he was under the influence before he got in his Lamborghini and took off, which may be why his consul, Norm Kent, told him to take the post down.
Next, we queer up Vote 2020. Trump campaign seeks to remind people Biden used to have anti-LGBTQ views. Watch this.
The President used his radio address yesterday and tomorrow in the Rose Garden to talk about a constitutional amendment to ban gay marriage.
You know, think about this. The world's going to Hades in a handbasket. We are desperately concerned about the circumstance relating to avian flu. We don't have enough vaccines. We don't have enough police officers. And we're going to debate the next 3 weeks, I'm told, gay marriage, a flag amendment, and God only knows what else. I can't believe the American people can't see through this. We already have a law, the Defense of Marriage Act, where we've all voted, not where I voted and others said, look, marriage is between a man and a woman, and states must respect that. Nobody's violated that law. There's been no challenge to that law. Why do we need a constitutional amendment? Marriage is between a man and a woman. What's the game going on here?
As the election season continues to heat up, President Trump's campaign distributed on Friday evening a video from 2006 of Joe Biden defending the Anti-Gay Defense of Marriage Act and saying, quote, "Marriage is between a man and a woman and states must respect that." As evidence, the candidate, quote, flip-flops. Biden, who voted against the federal marriage amendment in 2004 as a senator from Delaware, and would ultimately vote against it again in 2006, said the measure was not worth Congress's time. Biden, in 2012, came out strongly in favor of marriage equality, while Trump's Justice Department continues to fight Supreme Court rulings favoring equality to this day.
It's an interesting moment. Biden made these comments on Meet the Press in 2006. This was a commercial that ran for the Trump campaign last week in 2020. I don't understand what the Trump campaign is trying to suggest, that Biden does not support the LGBT community. In fact, if anything, their emphasis of these comments from 14 years ago is a reflection of how they're trying to misdirect from the president's own actions to our community.
Yep.
We are going to queer up sports. A noose is found in black driver's garage, sparks NASCAR investigation. NASCAR said in a statement late Sunday that it had launched an immediate investigation after a noose was found in Bubba Wallace's garage at Talladega Superspeedway in Lincoln, Alabama. Bubba Wallace is currently NASCAR's only black driver and helped lead the charge to ban Confederate flag from NASCAR events. For his part, Wallace said in a statement that act of racism and hatred leaves me incredibly saddened and serves as a painful reminder of how much further we have to go as a society and how persistent we must be in our fight against racism.
They better stop messing with my husband. Next week, Queer Up Entertainment. Lawrence Fox calls out Harry Potter stars as spoiled millionaires for opposing J.K. Rowling's trans views. A long line of actors who starred in the Harry Potter films and spin-offs have been speaking out and standing in solidarity with the trans community after the author put a string of anti-trans tweets and later an essay defending her gender-critical views. Fox doesn't think this is fair and is quoted as saying, Harry Potter, it would seem, is deathly shallow. Rupert Grint looked for a moment like holding firm, but he too quickly succumbed to growing pressure to slip his golden dagger between Rowling's shoulder blades.
That's something else. Next, we queer up religion. One of America's largest conversion therapy networks is breaking up. Hope for Wholeness, a prominent ex-gay ministry that boasts one of the most expansive networks of conversion therapy offerings in the United States, is disbanding. The Spartanburg, South Carolina-based organization, founded in 1999 as Truth Ministries, told members in an email Monday that Hope for Wholeness would be closing its operations, citing the group's difficulties in retaining a director to lead their efforts. Hope for Wholeness's founder, McCrae Game, has since denounced the group's efforts, and he came out as gay last year.
We continue by queuing up the USA by reporting Trump backs Idaho law banning transgender athletes. In an early signal, his administration may seek to limit the impact of the recent U.S. Supreme Court ruling against anti-LGBTQ discrimination. President Trump is promoting an effort from the U.S. Justice Department to protect the Idaho law barring transgender athletes from girls' sports against a lawsuit. Trump on Saturday retweeted an article on his administration's statement of interest from the far-right website Breitbart News, which hailed the move in a headline as "Sports Justice Department Rejects SCOTUS Transgender Rule." Tonight, let's catch up on all of the news surrounding COVID-19 with our Quarantine Quickies. The first story tonight is our daily reporting of the coronavirus facts, especially important to the LGBT community. We report on coronavirus case numbers based on standard acceptance of LGBT population. The world's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases stand at 636,157, while America's LGBTQ COVID-19 cases stand at 165,241. We remind you that America is ground zero of this pandemic, and the USA is just 4.4% of the world's population, but today is 25.9% of all of the cases in the world. Next, we report on coronavirus deaths. The world's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths stand at 32,992, while America's LGBTQ COVID-19 deaths stand at 8,558. The USA is 25.9% of all of the world's deaths. Next, we report testing facts. As of today, we have 28,514,000 tests have been taken. And as a result, Q News tonight recognizes our Hall of Fame top states in testing, which as of tonight is number 3, New Mexico, number 2, New York, and we congratulate number 1, Rhode Island, for being the first state to cross the 20% threshold for testing. We also, unfortunately, at Q News tonight recognize our Hall of Shame states. These are the states doing the worst job in testing, and LGBTQ America, we hope you don't live in one of these states. Number 5 is Kansas, number 4 Colorado, number 3 Oregon, number 2 Idaho, and virtually no testing at all is going on in number 1 Puerto Rico.
Quarantine Quickies. White House advisor says Trump administration preparing for a possible second wave of COVID. Watch this.
But this is a serious issue. But look, last night was a campaign rally.
So you're preparing for a second wave in the fall?
Of course
we're preparing for a second wave in the fall.
You prepare for what can possibly happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but of course you prepare. And I'll tell you what, we're a lot more prepared under this president than we were when China foisted this on us to begin with. And let's not forget that, Jake. China created this pandemic. They hid the virus, they created that virus, and they sent over hundreds of thousands of Chinese citizens here to spread that around and around the world. Whether they did that on purpose, that's an open question, but that's a fact.
White House trade advisor Peter Navarro said Sunday that the Trump administration is preparing for the possibility that a second wave of COVID-19 could hit the United States in the fall. Navarro's comments come as Vice President Mike Pence, who's leading the Trump administration's coronavirus task force, has downplayed the threat of a second wave that public health experts are warning about. During a campaign rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Saturday, Trump said that he told officials in his administration to slow down coronavirus testing because of the rising number of cases in America.
I think Trump still thinks he's on The Apprentice, and the number of cases just means it's bad ratings for him. I don't think he actually gets that people are dying. Either that or he's pure evil. It's one or the other.
His riffing on, I told the administration staff to stop doing so much testing, was really what he was saying, and he riffed in mistake. And second, I'm a little confused by this story, David, because I wasn't aware there still was a White House coronavirus commission.
I think it's just Mike Pence at this point. And I think because of Trump just wants to set a whole ignore it and it'll go away mentality, which is terrible.
Next up in Quarantine Quickies, is indoor air conditioning why Florida has doubled its COVID-19 cases the past 10 days? Watch this.
I guess you could assume young people are going out. We see them out. We see them at beaches and sandbars. Makes sense that they would spread the coronavirus, but then they would probably bring it home to others. Why the uptick in young people specifically?
Yeah, Mika, this was one of the hottest weekends I can recall. The humidity was high, the temperature was high, and there's plenty of people on the sandbars, plenty of people at the beaches, but they come home and they go into air conditioning.
Right.
And I really worry that the fact that people congregate outside with or without masks is one thing, but then they all have to come back inside. And we know, if you just look at the number of states across the country with near exponential growth, that's coming this week from what we can see. Dr. Gottlieb, I think, pointed that out accurately. It's all states that need air conditioning. People come inside, and the proximity of individuals in homes, especially when the front door closes.
Some doctors are starting to worry the circulation of an indoor air conditioning is going to cause increasing problems for the population as the summer months wear on. Many people are doing their best to socially distance and to keep masks on when outside. However, many neglect the fact that masks are just as vital when indoors as well, due to how much air in an enclosed space can move around. Only time will tell if the cases continue to climb along with the thermostat here in Florida.
Well, we remind you, America, every Thursday night we do Q's Q&A on coronavirus for the LGBT community. We'll have Dr. Howard Grossman with us. This will be the first question that we ask on Thursday night about the effect of air conditioning and being inside with no mask and a little social isolation. It'll be our first question.
I think it's not the actual air conditioning that's blame. This is similar to flu season in the north. When it's cold, people congregate indoors. Down here, when it's hot, people congregate indoors. It's not the actual air conditioning, it's just people getting away from the extreme weather.
Yeah, I just hope that people understand the concept of social distancing doesn't end when you go inside, but given the other news today, I have my doubts.
Well, that's our COVID-19 quarantine quickies for tonight. And we end tonight's broadcast by our segment that we call The Big Finish. These are short story mentions of LGBTQ news or news with a gay perspective. So here we go. First on Q News Tonight, The Big Finish. We report first that Marvel fans are demanding Poe-star Dominique Jackson play Storm.
I think she'd be really good. Storm will be introduced to the MCU in Black Panther 2, where she'll be the Queen of Wakanda. And, you know, Mother Elektra does have that demeanor.
I think this would be a great casting choice, although personally I just hope Marvel stops screwing up the Phoenix Saga.
Halle Berry is going to be a tough act to follow, but if anyone could bring the lightning, it is Elektra. In The Big Finish, NASCAR is still seeing Confederate flags fly outside of the track.
You know, the Confederacy was around for a very long time, almost 5 years, so people have a hard time letting go of that.
I mean, it's probably going to be around longer than the Trump administration is going to be, so fair enough, I guess.
I haven't seen such dedication to a symbol of losing since that time David and Chris thought that they could beat me in a debate. It brings back such sad memories for them. In the big finish, thousands of Trump supporters cheered as he drank from a glass of water.
I was so proud to see that the supposed leader of the free world could finally drink water with one hand.
Hey, we went from having our first black president to having our first president who is this stupid, so.
Elderly. You know, I was thrilled to watch that moment. I watched the entire thing Saturday. Now that Trump has discovered water is wet, remember Puerto Rico, I am hopeful we can move him next to gay people are human beings sometime this year before he's elected, or he is voted out of office. The big finish. Sarah Sanders says John Bolton was drunk on power.
She's like the angry librarian everyone hated who suddenly got thrown to the White House. She's one to talk.
I feel like the only reason she said this is because she had to qualify the fact that he was the only one not drunk from something else there.
Oh, come on. In fairness to John Bolton, if I had to meet with the president daily, I wouldn't want to be sober either. The big finish. No context Monday. Here we go. I'm a Floridian. Florida man surprised that his online girlfriend is actually a penguin.
And here he just thought it was a guy in a tux.
It could have been worse. It could have been a Republican.
I constantly say Florida is the freak show state. Once again, Florida is the freak show state. In the big finish, happy 71st birthday to Senator Elizabeth Warren.
You know, I have a lot of respect for her. We got to go see her down in Miami a few months ago, and somebody, I think, got through the screening and asked a very hard question about the kids in cages down in Homestead, the IC detention, and she instantly just got on board with going down there and did the next day. So happy birthday. Thanks for everything you do.
Elizabeth Warren is probably one of the 10 most important politicians of the last 20 years. Her fight for workers' rights has been impressive. Happy birthday, Mrs. Warren.
You know, a lot of LGBT America doesn't know that I'm a Republican, but I'm not a Trumpster. It has got to suck that her legacy, top 10 in the last 20 years, really? Wow. That her legacy may well just be Bernie Light for a majority of her fan base. But that's still pretty good.
Was that a blonde joke?
Happy birthday, Senator Warren.
That's today's news for the LGBTQ community on the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Remember, if it's important to the LGBTQ community, it's important to Q News Tonight. But you must help us. Click subscribe on YouTube and share this news.
We are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. This is the only source of live LGBTQ news in the entire world, and your community needs your support.
You are not alone. We will get through this crisis.
We are here with you, and this is Q News Tonight.
So thank you for joining us. I'm Al Ferguson, and on behalf of Chris Swarner and David Hopkins, we will see you daily and tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Good night.